Kent, England. 1988. During an excavation of an Iron Age burial site, archaeologists uncover the skeleton of a man who lived around the 3rd century BC and who was wearing a unique headdress. Based on the design of this bronze crown, many researchers believe these are the first remains ever discovered of a Druid. According to Irish legend, the Druids were a class of ancient Celtic priests who were in close contact with the Shining Ones, the Tuatha Dé Danann.
The word for Druid in Irish is Driocht, which literally means magic. So there is an interconnection between the Tuatha Dé Danann and their magic and the practice of Druidry.
The Tuatha Dé Danann were said to have been the founders of Druidism. And the Druids were said to have all kinds of special powers themselves. And so it would seem that the Tuatha Dé Danann had shown some of their extraterrestrial technology to the Druids, who then were able to use it themselves.
The Druidic religion originated with the Tuatha Dé Danann, but they were never allowed to write down any of the Druidic knowledge. It was taboo because it was so-called sacred knowledge.
The Druids spent decades in training to perform their priestly functions. These are members of the inner circle, as we're told. The inner circle refers ultimately to the innermost knowledge of the Tuatha Dé Danann. The Shining Ones, they know their secrets and they can wield their technology.
Portrayals of Druids as mysterious, shaman-like figures with mystical powers has led some scholars to question if they truly existed or were purely mythological figures. But according to the earliest accounts of them, the Druids were an integral part of Celtic society throughout the British Isles.
There are certain things we know about the Druids, but of course there's a lot we don't know. And this vacuum incited a lot of romantic speculation in the 19th century. And so we're still carrying that baggage a little bit, so swirling robes and so on. But in Celtic society, in Gaelic society, the Druids exercised authority and played an important role in the life of the tribe and the society. The Druids were the holders of knowledge. They held and perpetuated the knowledge which was important to the survival of the tribe. They held and perpetuated judiciary knowledge, things sacred and spiritual.
The Druid was a very special figure, a priest, perhaps, a historian, perhaps, a magician, perhaps, and many, many things. These were the learned people of Celtic society. They formed a special class. According to Caesar, the Druids in Gaul had to study 20 years to become a Druid. And they had many, many roles to play, including acting as jurists and judges, advisors to kings. And so Druidism and the magic that they were able to employ is really a foundational part of early Celtic society. And Druids are not necessarily men. We also have a lot of accounts of female Druidry. And it does seem to be associated heavily with the Tuatha Dé Danann.
They didn't just teach things like astronomy and, harmony in nature. They were working with geomancy, the placement of ancient sites across the landscape called geodesy, and also working with earth energies and even plant medicines. So they had a high understanding of these different arts and sciences.
The Druids were known to travel far and wide, seeking out the knowledge of other cultures. But they were also said to interact directly with the Tuatha Dé Danann, who shared the secrets of their so-called magical abilities.
Pliny the Elder, who was one of the most famous of the Roman writers and historians, he claimed that at a full moon, Druids would meet at a mound and they would trace a design that looked something like a dragon on top of the mound. And this would summon some sort of lightning or some phenomenon that happened in the sky. I don't think he saw it himself. He was taking what he knew from Roman soldiers had witnessed it. But apparently it frightened a lot of them They saw lights in the sky once the Druids did this dragon ritual, as it became known.
So it would seem that the Druids knew of the power of certain special places. And perhaps this is something that would summon the Tuatha Dé Danann, these shining people who came from the sky.
One of the many magical powers the Druids were said to possess was the ability to levitate massive stones, which they used to construct some of the megalithic structures found throughout the British Isles.
The most famous of the Druids, of course, was Merlin. Merlin was said to have created Stonehenge by taking an existing stone circle from Ireland and bringing it to Salisbury Plain in southern England. And there, using magic powers, he was able to raise the stones into position in the manner that we see them today.
What is interesting is that the stones that built Stonehenge did come from a long way away, about 135 miles away in South Wales. Somehow they were moved to central England, and the ancients believed it was Merlin who was responsible for that.
There are stories that say that some of those big, gigantic blocks at Stonehenge were levitated into place through magical incantations. Well, what magical incantations? Because I don't think that levitation can happen just by words. There has to be some type of technology behind it. The idea is that basically this was extraterrestrial knowledge imparted by the Tuatha Dé Danann.